Tonight, we're going to walk through a city that no longer stands. Its mud brick houses have melted back into the earth. Its markets have gone quiet. Its temple columns stand broken or buried. But for one night, we can imagine it as it was, breathing, busy, lit by small lamps wrapped in the sound of the Nile. It is late in the day in ancient Egypt, sometime in the New Kingdom, more than 3,000 years ago. The sun is low over the river, turning the water the color of copper. Boats move slowly across the surface, long wooden vessels with square sails, smaller fishing boats, narrow craft that carry grain and pottery. If you stand on the riverbank and listen, you can hear the creak of wood, the rustle of sails, and faint voices calling across the water. On the eastern bank, a city sits close to the river. It is not the capital, not a royal center sung about in famous inscriptions, but one of the thousands of places where real people lived their entire lives. From a distance, it looks like a cluster of pale, sand-colored shapes rising from the flat land. As you come closer, the shapes resolve into houses, courtyards, storage buildings, and the outlines of temple walls. This city has no glass towers, no steel bridges, no streetlights, but it has its own order. Narrow streets twist between buildings. Doorways open onto small enclosed spaces. Roofs are flat, made of timber and packed earth, and some people will sleep up there tonight under the stars. All through the day, this city has been loud. Farmers and laborers have brought in grain and vegetables through the gates. Scribes have carried scrolls and clay tablets to offices near the palace or temple. Artisans have hammered copper and bronze, carved wood and stone, and painted the walls of tombs and shrines. Children have run through the alleys, weaving around the legs of adults. Dogs have barked at carts and strangers. The air has been thick with dust and heat. Now, as the light fades, the city begins to change its rhythm. Shadows stretch across the streets. The sky darkens from gold to deep blue. One by one, small lamps are lit in homes, courtyards, and near doorways. The intense brightness of day gives way to the softer, flickering glow of evening. Near the river, at the edge of the main market, stalls are closing. A woman who has been selling bread all day gathers the last loaves and stacks them carefully. She sweeps crumbs from the rough wooden board and covers what is left with cloth to keep off the evening dust. Her hands are practiced, moving without hurry but without waste. A man who sells fish lifts the final small catches from his basket and rinses his hands in a basin of water. He has called out prices for hours, argued, laughed, and complained. Now he is quiet, tired, thinking about the meal waiting at home. He puts away his scales, lifts his basket, and steps out of the market, his feet familiar with every stone. Children weave through the crowd as it thins. Some help parents carry baskets, others slip away toward the riverbank to watch boats one more time before they are called inside. They chase each other in brief bursts of energy, then stop to stare at the sun sinking behind the western desert, where the realm of the dead is imagined to lie. If you stand in the middle of the market as it empties, you can feel the city exhale. The tense energy of trade starts to loosen. Voices soften. The smell of baking bread, dried fish, and crushed herbs fades slowly, replaced by the cooler scent of evening air and the distant, steady presence of the Nile. From here, you step into the streets. The walls on either side are close. They are made of sun-dried mud bricks laid in courses with wooden beams supporting the upper floors. Openings are small and high. Most homes do not have large glass windows. Light comes from doors, from small slots in the walls, and from the roof above. From here, you step deeper into the streets. The walls on either side are close. They're made of sun-dried mud bricks laid in courses with wooden beams supporting the upper floors. Openings are small and high. Most homes do not have large glass windows. Light comes from doors, from small slots in the walls, and from the roof above. As you walk, you pass doorways where families are beginning their nightly routines. In one house, a woman kneels near a clay oven, turning flat rounds of dough into bread. She presses the dough against the hot surface, watches it puff slightly, then pulls it away before it burns. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the smell of smoke and dust. In another, a man pours beer from a ceramic jar into simple cups, while a child carefully carries them to older relatives seated on mats. The beer is cloudy, slightly sour, stronger than modern drinks, but familiar and comforting. Bread and beer together form the core of daily life, the calories that keep bodies moving through long days of work under the sun. A little further along, you glimpse a small courtyard through an open door. A clay jar of water stands in a corner. Low stools and woven mats sit near a wall. A cat moves lazily across the floor, uninterested in the human concerns of taxes, temples, and imperial wars. At the end of the street, a doorway stands open. Inside, a lamp burns with a small, steady flame. This is the home you will step into for the night. You duck under the lintel and enter. The floor is hard-packed earth. The ceiling is low compared to modern buildings, supported by wooden beams. The interior is divided into simple spaces, a front room where work and food preparation happen, a small back area for storage, and a ladder or narrow staircase leading up to the roof. Already the day's heat is beginning to ease. The air is warmer than you might be used to, with no electric fans, no air conditioning, but the thick walls help hold the cooling of night better than open ground. In this house lives a small family. A scribe, his partner, their children, and an older relative who remembers stories from a time before this city was built. Each of them has a place in the pattern of this city, just as each brick has a place in the wall. The scribe has spent the day near the local temple, copying accounts of offerings, taxes, and supplies on papyrus. His hands carry faint traces of ink. His mind is full of numbers, names, and symbols, grain tallies, lists of workers, records of animals given to the gods. Tonight, like many nights, he will trade that mental ledger for something older and softer. Stories of gods, stories of rivers, stories of land and sky. He will move from the careful strokes of writing to the looser flow of spoken tales. In the front room, his partner is finishing the evening meal. Bread that was baked earlier in the day is laid out on a low table. Bowls of lentils and onions sit nearby. There's a small dish of figs, a modest luxury. The room smells of warm bread, cooked vegetables, and oil from the lamp. The children sit cross-legged on the floor, watching the adults. They know this routine well. They know where to sit, how to share, and when to speak. But every night is still a little different. A new story, a new mood, a new detail from the day. You sit quietly in a corner of the front room as food is shared. Hands move in practiced patterns, breaking bread, scooping lentils, passing cups of beer. Words move in gentle ones, asking who passed by the market, who was seen at the temple, whether anyone heard news from the larger cities downriver. The older relative listens, then adds a comment here and there. She remembers a flood that came higher than expected, a year when the grain was thin, a time when soldiers moved through the city with urgent, purposeful steps. Her memories stretch across decades, giving the younger people a sense of how this place changes and endures. When the first hunger is eased, the conversation becomes slower, softer. The scribe sets aside his cup, wipes his hands on a cloth, and looks toward the ladder that leads to the roof. He stands and gestures gently for the family to follow. One by one, they climb the ladder to the roof. You rise and follow them up. On the roof, the air feels different. There is more movement, more space. The night breeze touches your skin more clearly. The earth smells fainter. The sky smells stronger. The roof is not large. It is a flat surface of packed earth supported by wooden beams. Along the edge stands a low parapet to prevent falls. Near one corner is a mat already laid out, woven from plant fibers, where someone will sleep later. From here, the city looks like a series of irregular blocks, dotted with lamps and small fires. You can see other roofs where families sit, talk, or lie down. You can see the darker line of the river beyond, reflecting a few points of light from boats and shore. Above you, the sky is now scattered with stars. In ancient Egypt, the stars are more than distant points of light. They are part of a living map of gods and stories. Certain stars mark important times of year. Certain constellations carry myths of journeys and judgments. The scribe sits on the roof near the parapet and begins to speak. He does not start with tax records or temple accounts. He starts with something older, something that connects the hum of this city to the wider pattern of the world. He speaks of the Nile. He tells his children that the river is not just water, not just a road for boats and a source of fish. It is a line between order and chaos. When it floods at the right time and to the right height, fields are nourished and people live well. When it fails or rages, fear creeps into homes like cold air. He describes the way the flood is watched, measured, and recorded. Scribes mark the rising of the water on special stones. Priests make offerings, asking the gods to bless the cycle again. As he speaks, you can almost see the river in your mind, swelling and receding with a steady ancient rhythm. You can feel how deeply this family's security depends on that rhythm holding. The children listen with quiet, wide-eyed attention. They have stood on the Nile's banks and watched boats, but they have not yet seen the river through the eyes of a lifetime. The older relative adds softly that there was once a year when the flood came late. People waited and waited, watching the water, worrying in long, anxious silence. When it finally rose, relief spread through the city like sunlight after clouds. After a while, the conversation shifts. The scribe begins to tell a story not about the river's movement, but about the beings believed to shape it. He speaks of gods. He explains in gentle, simple language that in their world many forces are given faces and names. The river has a god. The sky has gods. The earth, the air, and the realm of the dead have their own guardians. He does not recite long hymns. He paints images with words, figures who protect, figures who judge, figures who watch. He mentions temples you cannot see from here, where statues stand in darkened rooms and offerings are made by day. Somewhere below, in the temple district, incense has already burned. Bread and beer have been set before carved forms that represent gods of this land. Doors are closed now, only a few lamps flicker inside. On the roof under the open sky, the family receives this world of gods not through ritual, but through story. The scribe's voice is calm, measured, never hurried. He pauses just long enough for each image to settle. He pauses just long enough for each image to settle. He speaks of a sky goddess whose body arches over the world, covered in stars. Of a god whose eye is the sun, traveling across the heavens by day and through the unseen realms by night. Of a protective figure placed at doorways, meant to keep harmful forces outside. He does not insist that every detail be remembered. He simply lets the shapes of these beings drift through the minds of his children like clouds across the sky. The older relative adds a few brief lines of her own. She recalls a story she heard when she was young about a night when the stars seemed brighter after a difficult year. She says quietly that sometimes looking up at the sky reminds her that the troubles of one season are not the whole story. On the roof, the children lie on mats near the parapet. They listen, but they also feel their bodies beginning to grow heavy with tiredness. Their eyes move between the stars above and the faces of the adults nearby. You lie back as well. The packed earth beneath you is firm and simple. The air above you is open and full of distant light. The city's noise has softened to a low, irregular murmur. Someone closing a door, a few final words on a nearby roof, a dog barking once and then falling silent. The scribe's voice grows gentler as he feels the mood shift. He moves from stories of gods toward thoughts about the day itself. He speaks briefly of the work he did, numbers recorded, offerings listed, messages carried, and then lets those topics go. He mentions a neighbor who shared news from another town along the river. He wonders aloud, in a soft tone, how many cities just like this one are settling into night at this very moment. The older relative smiles and says that the river binds them all together, even when they never meet. She notes that the same moon, the same stars, the same flow of water will pass by thousands of homes tonight. For a time, no one speaks. You simply listen to the quiet. You can hear your own breathing, steady and calm. You can feel the roof beneath you, the air on your skin, the faint weight of the night pressing gently down like a blanket. Then, the scribe suggests that it is time to sleep. He helps the younger child adjust a mat near the parapet, making sure there is enough distance from the edge. He checks the small lamp they brought up, making sure the flame is low, then shields it with a simple cover so it does not blow out too quickly. The family settles into their places on the roof. The partner lies near the children. The older relative chooses a spot slightly closer to the ladder where she feels comfortable. The scribe lies down last, taking a moment to look over the city and the river one more time before closing his eyes. You remain on your mat, sharing the same imagined roof. The stars above do not hurry. They seem content to watch without comment. The river beyond continues its slow, patient movement toward distant lands. Within this single house, in this single city, the concerns of the day, work, trade, news, small worries, begin to fade. What remains is the simple act of breathing and resting, wrapped in the sounds and shapes of an ancient night. As the family settles, the city around them moves further into night. You do not leave the roof, but your attention drifts outward beyond this single house. In the temple district, a different kind of quiet holds. Massive stone walls surround courtyards and halls. Columns rise from the ground like trees, carved with scenes of gods and kings. By day, this place receives worshippers, offerings, and officials. By night, it belongs mostly to the priests and to silence. Oil lamps burn low inside certain rooms. Their light touches painted reliefs, polished stone floors, and carefully stored ritual objects. In one inner chamber, a statue of a god stands on a raised platform. Its eyes seem to look out over a space that is now empty of people. Earlier in the evening, a priest washed and dressed that statue. He offered bread, beer, and incense, speaking words taught to him by older generations. He believed that these actions helped maintain the balance between this city and the forces it cannot see. Now, that priest has returned to his own quarters. He may sit with a small group of others, reviewing the tasks of the day, or he may rest quietly, trusting that his work is enough for now. Elsewhere in the city, not far from the temple, workers sleep after long hours. Some helped repair walls or dig canals. Others carried heavy loads for building projects or moved goods between warehouses and markets. Their bodies are tired in a way that needs no elaborate explanation. In small, crowded rooms, they lie side by side on mats or woven blankets. They may fall asleep quickly, with little time for stories, their minds still holding images of tools, stones, and sunlit dust. A few streets away, there are houses where scribes and minor officials live. They have spent the day with numbers, lists, and reports. Their worries are different: missing records, unclear orders, the expectations of superiors, but they too eventually lay down their concerns with the setting of the sun. Beyond the city proper, near its edges, some soldiers are on watch. They stand near gates, walls, or small guard posts. Most nights are uneventful, marked only by the passing of time and the change of the sky. But the possibility of trouble exists, even if it is small tonight. One soldier, leaning on his spear, looks out toward the darkened land beyond the city. He hears distant animal calls and the faint rush of the river. He knows that while many people sleep inside, his task is to remain awake a little longer. In another part of the city, perhaps closer to the river, a boatman lies on a mat beside his modest home. He has spent the day guiding his boat along the Nile, moving passengers or cargo. The feel of the river is still present in his muscles and memory, the resistance of water against wood, the pull of the current. As he closes his eyes, he knows that tomorrow he will return to that same flow, that same path. All of these small lives, priests, workers, scribes, soldiers, boatmen, are part of the same night you are sharing on the roof. Most of them will never meet each other. Yet they are connected by the sounds of the city, the rise and fall of the river, and the shared need to rest. Back on the roof, the scribe's family has grown quieter. The children breathe evenly, their earlier questions suspended until morning. The partner's eyes are closed, her body relaxing after the work of the day. The older relative lies still, perhaps thinking briefly of years gone by, then letting those memories drift away. The scribe himself feels his mind slowing. Thoughts of records and temple tasks recede. In their place come simpler sensations, the feel of the mat beneath him, the coolness of air entering his lungs, the distant whisper of the river. You remain on your mat listening to this layered quiet. There is no need to hurry anywhere. This night is wide enough to hold you and countless others at once. As the city rests, another layer of belief lies quietly beneath everything. The people of this land do not see death as a simple stopping point. They imagine a journey, a passage, and a continuing existence in another realm. Near this city, out beyond the houses and fields, tombs are cut into the earth or built as small structures of stone. Inside them lie bodies wrapped in linen, placed with care and with offerings. Pottery, food, amulets, and written spells accompany the dead, meant to help them in the world to come. Scribes and priests have written texts that describe trials and tests beyond this life. They speak of a hall of judgment where a heart is weighed against a feather of truth. They describe gates and guardians, rivers and fields, dangers and rewards. Most ordinary people may not know every detail of these writings, but they know that how one lives here is believed to matter elsewhere. They know that kindness, honesty, and respect are praised, while cruelty and greed are feared. In this imagined city, some tombs belong to families like the one on the roof. They are not grand monuments, but they are carefully prepared. They hold the remains of parents, grandparents, and siblings. When a burial takes place, people walk from the city to the tomb with measured steps. They speak words of farewell. They leave offerings, hoping the dead will find their way safely through the unseen landscape beyond death. Tonight, though, no funeral is happening. The tombs stand silent under the same stars that watch the living. They are part of the larger picture, one that stretches from birth through work and love, all the way into memory and myth. On the roof, the scribe is aware of these beliefs. He has copied parts of the funerary texts in his work. He has watched processions leaving the city and returning lighter than before. Yet in this moment, he does not dwell on fear. He knows that tonight his task is simpler: to rest, to let go of the weight of the day, and to trust that the river, the city, and the gods will continue their own rhythms for a while without his direct attention. The children on the roof have heard stories about the afterlife. They have seen small images of gods painted on walls or carved into amulets. But for them, the strongest reality is still the present. Parents nearby, familiar voices, the soft pressure of a hand adjusting a blanket. You share this roof and this night with them, yet you also carry your own experiences from a different time and place. You may have your own ideas about what happens after life ends. You may be certain, uncertain, or simply curious. Whatever you feel, you can let those thoughts rest for now. This story does not ask you to adopt every ancient belief. It simply invites you to understand that for these people, the world was full of patterns and connections that made sense to them. Work, worship, family, and death were all parts of one long, flowing path. As you lie on the roof, you can imagine that path stretching out like the river itself. It begins somewhere far upstream, in places you cannot see. It passes through this city, through these lives, through this very night. And then it continues on, past fields and towns, toward distant lands. Your own path has brought you here, into this imagined scene. For now, that's enough. You do not need to solve every mystery or answer every question before you sleep. As you lie on the roof, you can imagine the paths people followed through this city during the day. You saw only the evening, the gentle settling of routines. But behind that quiet are many hours of effort. Think of a worker whose hands are rough from lifting stone. He rose before sunrise, stepping out into cool air that would later turn hot. He walked to a site where a wall or canal needed repairing. There, he joined others, men and women, who carried baskets of rubble, mixed mud, and set bricks into place. Through the morning, his muscles burned. Dust clung to his skin. Sweat blurred his vision from time to time, and he wiped it away with the back of his arm. He took small breaks when allowed, drinking water and eating simple bread. By midday, the sun was strong. He adjusted his cloth head covering to shield his eyes. He continued to lift, carry, and place, knowing that this work maintained the city's structures, the walls that protect, the channels that bring water to fields. In the afternoon, his pace slowed but did not stop. He listened to the voices of others, to occasional calls from overseers, to small jokes traded between tired companions. He felt both exhaustion and a quiet satisfaction when a section of the wall finally stood firm again. When evening came, he walked home along streets you have also seen. He passed markets as they closed, lamps as they were lit, the same doorways where families now gather. His steps were slower than in the morning, but they carried him toward rest. Now, at night, that worker may be lying on a mat in a small room, breathing heavily but steadily. His body is recovering, his mind drifting away from stone and dust. He does not need to think about tomorrow yet. Remembering him, even briefly, can soften something inside you. You can feel respect for the quiet, unseen efforts that support any place, ancient or modern. You can accept that your own efforts, however different, also deserve rest at the end of a day. As you return your attention to the roof, you carry this gentle recognition with you. It moves through your chest like a slow, warm breath. It makes the night feel a little safer, a little more generous. You can also imagine a day on the river that flows beside this city. The Nile is not just a distant idea. It is a road, a source, and a companion. Picture a small boat leaving the bank at dawn. The air is cool. Mist hangs lightly over the water, softening the edges of distant shapes. A boatman pushes away from the shore with a pole, then lifts a simple sail to catch the breeze. As the boat moves, the river's surface changes. Ripples spread outward from the bow. Reflections of sky and land break and reform with each gentle wave. Nearby, reeds sway in a rhythm set by currents and wind. On board, there may be baskets of grain, jars of oil, or other goods needed in another town. The boatman watches the water, the wind, and the banks. He knows the safe channels and the hidden shallows. He steers carefully, aware that this journey is part of a chain of tasks that keep many people fed and supplied. By midday, the boat has covered a stretch of river that is, to him, entirely familiar. He has seen certain bends and islands so often that they feel almost like old acquaintances. Yet he can still find beauty in the way light plays on the water, in the way birds rest on distant branches. In the afternoon, he turns back toward home. The cargo is lighter now. Some items have been delivered. He guides the boat along a path that leads again to the city's bank. When he steps onto land, his legs feel briefly strange, adjusting from the small motions of the boat to the steady ground. Later, as night comes, he lies down in his house near the river. The sounds of water are close, weaving into his dreams. His day's work is over, and like the worker with stone, he lets his body sink into rest. In the temple district, as you imagine the next morning, Another kind of sound begins. The soft ringing of small metal instruments. The murmur of voices reciting lines learned long ago. Footsteps echoing on stone floors as priests begin their tasks. They open doors, uncover statues, and sweep courtyards. They prepare offerings with care, believing that these actions help keep harmony between the visible world and the invisible one. Their work is different from lifting stone or guiding boats, but it also follows a rhythm and requires patience. All of these patterns, work on land, journeys on water, rituals in temples, are part of the same fabric. They give shape to days and meaning to nights. They make the city more than a cluster of bricks. They make it a living place. As you lie here in the imagined night, you do not need to hold every detail of these scenes. You can simply feel that many lives are being lived with effort and care. You can let that sense wrap around you like a quiet blanket, supporting your own rest. As you rest on the roof, you can imagine that not every day in this city is the same. Some days are marked by special events, festivals, processions, or gatherings that shift the usual rhythm. Picture a festival day, recalled now in quiet memory. At dawn, more people than usual leave their homes, moving toward a central street. Children walk alongside adults, eyes wide, sensing that this day is different from others. Soon, music begins, simple instruments, flutes and drums. Voices rise in songs learned from elders, carrying words of praise and gratitude. Priests and officials lead a procession, carrying symbols of gods or banners marking the occasion. Streets that normally carry carts and everyday traffic now hold lines of people moving together. Some throw flowers or petals along the pathway. Others clap gently in time with the music. The air feels charged but not chaotic, a planned, shared celebration. The scribe may be among the crowd, standing near his family. He watches the procession with a calm, observant gaze. He knows some of the texts sung today because he has copied them, line by line, in his work. He feels a quiet connection between the private world of writing and the public world of ritual. Children nearby experience the day mainly as color and sound. They see bright garments, painted faces, decorated objects. They hear the echo of drums and the rise and fall of chant. They may not understand every meaning yet, but they understand that this is a time to be together. As the festival continues, food is shared more freely. Some people offer small treats to neighbors. Stories are told, jokes traded, memories of past celebrations revisited. For a little while, worries about harvests, taxes, and repairs move to the side. When evening comes, the special performances end. Crowds thin, streets return to normal, lamps are lit as on any other night. The sense of occasion fades, but not entirely. It lingers in the minds of those who walked, sang, and watched. Now, lying on the roof, you can imagine the scribe recalling such a day as he prepares to sleep. The memory is not loud or overwhelming. It is a gentle picture in his mind, a reminder that life holds moments of gathering and joy alongside ordinary work. You too may recall certain days from your own life that stand out from the rest. Days of celebration, connection, or quiet significance. You do not have to dwell on them intensely now. You can let them sit lightly in the background, part of the broader story of your days. Another strand in the fabric of this city is food. Every day, people work to grow, store, and prepare what will keep them alive. You have seen the market closing in the evening, but imagine it in the morning. Stalls are set up with care. Baskets of grain, piles of onions, bundles of herbs, and jars of oil appear in orderly rows. Fish are laid out on boards, bread is stacked, and clay vessels are arranged within easy reach. People move through this space with purpose. Some come to sell, others to buy. Coins, promises, and goods are exchanged. A balance is sought between what each person needs and what each person can offer. For many, there is no excess. Meals are simple: bread, beer, vegetables, occasional fruit, or small amounts of meat. Yet even simple food can carry comfort. It can mark the difference between strength and weakness, between moving through the day and collapsing under its weight. On the roof, the family has eaten their evening meal. It was not a feast, but it was enough. You can imagine a quiet gratitude moving through the room as they shared what they had. No grand speeches were needed, just the act of passing bread, refilling cups, and knowing there was something to eat tonight. You might think of your own meals, whether modest or rich. You might remember times when food felt secure and times when it felt uncertain. Here, in this imagined city, you can let the simple satisfaction of enough sink in. Bread on a table, water in a jar, a family gathered, these are quiet blessings. As you breathe, you can picture the market resting now, empty under the stars. Stalls stand quiet, boards are bare, tools are stored away. Tomorrow the work will begin again. But tonight, the need to buy and sell has paused. This pause is important. Every system, markets, temples, homes, bodies, needs moments when effort stops. Without those pauses, even the strongest structures strain. With them, there is time for repair, reflection, and quiet renewal. You can let this idea touch your own life. Whatever you do, whatever roles you hold, you are allowed to stop for a while. You are allowed to let your mind and muscles soften like the city does at night. You are allowed to rest without needing to earn every breath with constant effort. As the night continues, you may find yourself thinking about time. This city you are visiting in your mind no longer exists in the way you imagine it. Its walls have crumbled, its streets have changed or vanished, its people have long since passed on. Yet, for one night, through this story, it has become present again. You have walked its market. You have entered a home. You have stood on a roof and looked out over the river and the stars. Stories can do this. Carry pieces of the past into the present, not as exact replicas, but as gentle echoes. They remind us that countless lives have been lived before ours. They show that many concerns, food, safety, family, meaning, repeat across centuries. In your own life, you may feel pressure from the future, plans, expectations, tasks you have not yet completed. You may also feel weight from the past, regrets, memories, unfinished thoughts. On this roof, in this night, you can place both gently to the side for now. You are allowed to inhabit a moment that is mostly present. Think again of the family sleeping nearby. To them, this night is just one of many. They do not know they will be remembered in a story centuries later. They simply seek rest, trusting that morning will come as it always has. You too can let go of the need to understand every large pattern right now. You do not need to solve the history of the world before you fall asleep. You do not need to decide the entire course of your life tonight. You can let this story hold some of that weight for you for a while. The roof beneath you remains solid in your imagination. The sky above remains wide and quiet. The river beyond remains constant, flowing in the dark. These three, earth, sky, and water, form a simple frame around your rest. Within that frame, your breath continues, slow and steady. Your muscles can loosen. Your thoughts can become softer at the edges, less sharp, less demanding. You can allow yourself to be carried, just for now, by the gentle current of this ancient night. From the roof, you can also imagine the wider world around this city. Beyond the Nile, beyond the fields and the desert, there are other lands, other towns, other rivers. Far away, people are also lying down at night. In some places, they sleep on mats. In others, on beds, on floors, or in boats. Some are surrounded by noise, others by deep silence. Yet in each place, the need to rest is the same. To the north, there may be coasts where the sea meets the sky. Waves roll in and out, steady and indifferent to human concerns. Fishermen who left in the morning have returned. Their boats rest on the shore or in small harbors. Their families gather nearby, sharing whatever food they have, then settling into sleep. To the south, along the same great river, other settlements stretch into the distance. More houses, more fields, more temples, more stories unfolding day by day. Each one has its own small problems, its own small joys. Each one has nights like this when activity slows and darkness takes over. In the desert beyond the cultivated land, the world is even simpler. Sand and stone, wind and sky. No markets, no crowds, no lamps in windows. Only the soft movement of dunes under the stars and the quiet work of the wind. All of these places are part of the same turning world. They share the same cycles of light and dark, effort and rest. They move together through time, even when their people never meet. You, lying here in your imagination, are connected to this larger picture without needing to control it. You do not have to hold every detail of every place. You only need to feel that you are part of a wide, slow-moving pattern. That your breath, your heartbeat, your sleep are small but real parts of a much larger whole. As the night deepens, the world continues to turn. The stars shift almost imperceptibly overhead. The river carries its waters toward distant seas. The city, the desert, the coasts, the fields, all exist in quiet harmony under the same sky. You can let this sense of scale comfort you rather than overwhelm you. It does not mean you are small in a negative way. It means you can release some of the pressure to be constantly significant, constantly active. You can simply be here, in this moment, on this roof, in this night, allowing yourself to rest. If you wish, you can return your attention once more to the immediate scene. The family sleeping nearby. The texture of the roof beneath you. The distant sound of the river. Let these details anchor you while the wider world continues its slow, gentle turning in the background. Around you, the night grows deeper. The small sounds of the city, doors closing, last words exchanged, footsteps fading, become fewer and farther between. What remains is mostly the quiet. You can still hear the river if you listen closely. Its movement is not loud. It is a steady, low presence, like a long, slow breath drawn by the land itself. On the roof, the scribe's family lies in simple, natural positions. A child has turned slightly in sleep, curling closer to a parent. The older relative lies still, her chest rising and falling in a calm rhythm. The partner and the scribe are at rest, their faces relaxed, their hands loose, no longer holding tools or food or writing brushes. You can imagine that if you stayed awake longer, you would see the stars slowly shift. Constellations would move across the sky in arcs too gradual to notice moment by moment. The moon, if visible, would change its position as well. But you do not need to track every movement. The point of this night, for you, is not to remain alert. It is to let your own thoughts slow down just as the city is done. To give your mind and body a gentle permission to release the day's tension. You may still notice stray thoughts appearing, memories of something you did today, worries about tomorrow, fragments of other stories you have heard. You do not need to fight them aggressively. You can simply let them pass through, like boats drifting along the Nile and disappearing into the dark. If a thought feels particularly loud or sharp, you can return your attention to something simple, to the feel of the roof beneath you, to the image of stars above your head, to the quiet presence of the sleeping family nearby. You are sharing this imagined space with them, but you are also safe in your own place, your own time. The story is a bridge, not a trap. It allows you to cross into a calmer state and then stay there as long as you need. Somewhere far away, the sun is still shining on other lands. Somewhere else, people are beginning their day, opening markets, starting work. But here, in this version of ancient Egypt, the night belongs to rest. It is a time when effort pauses and quiet takes over. You can imagine that hours from now, dawn will return. The sky will pale. Birds will call. Someone in the house will stir, sit up, and begin another day of ordinary tasks. The cycle will continue, as it has done for countless mornings before and after this one. But you do not need to rush ahead to that sunrise. For now, you are in the middle of the night. A place with no sharp edges, no urgent demands. Just the steady presence of walls, sky, river, and sleep. If you wish, you can return to the first image of this story, the city that no longer stands, imagined alive for one more night. You can see again the market, the streets, the houses, the temple, and the roof. You can let those images blend softly together until they lose their outlines and become a single quiet shape in your mind. In that soft shape, there is room for you to rest. You do not need to hold every detail of the story. You do not need to remember every name or every scene. You only need to let the gentle tone of this night carry you where you need to go. If sleep is ready to arrive, you can welcome it now. If you simply want to lie quietly a little longer, you can do that too. This roof, this river, this ancient city, they will stay peaceful as long as you wish.